The text arrived at 10:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in November 2023, right between helping customers at my art gallery, The Canvas. I'm leaving you. Moving to San Diego with Samantha, my 20-year-old assistant. I've already emptied our joint account, LOL. My hands didn't shake as I read it. My voice didn't waver as I helped Mr. Donovan finalize the purchase of a landscape painting. The only sign that my husband of 12 years, Ethan, had just nuked our marriage via text was a slight tightening around my jaw. I waited until Mr. Donovan left, his painting carefully wrapped in our signature burgundy paper, before typing my response, "Good luck. My name is Vivian, and at 41, I just received the most callous goodbye in history." While Ethan was probably gloating over his grand exit, imagining me in tears over his betrayal, I was calmly locking up the canvas for the day. The signs had been there for months: the late client dinners that never matched the deposits in his investment firm account, the sudden password changes on his laptop, the way he'd started wearing neon athletic gear and trying to recapture his youth. 4 months ago, I'd found a receipt for 2 plane tickets to Cabo on a weekend he'd claimed to be on a solo business retreat. That same evening, I'd opened a separate business account at a different bank. A week later, when he mentioned wanting to combine our personal accounts to simplify our finances, I'd agreed cheerfully while moving my personal savings and all gallery profits to the new, protected account. The joint account he'd just emptied contained exactly enough to keep him from getting suspicious, about 2 months' worth of regular household deposits. The rest was safely tucked away, along with detailed records of every suspicious travel charge and expense he'd made over the past year. My phone buzzed again. "Don't bother begging. Samantha and I leave tomorrow. I'll send for my things later." Samantha. The new marketing associate at his firm. I'd met her briefly at a corporate reception, watched her laugh too loudly at Ethan's stale jokes, and noticed how she lingered near his arm. She was young enough to be his mentee, naive enough to think she was special. I didn't respond. Instead, I called my lawyer, Ms. Chen, the one I'd consulted 3 months ago when I'd found the jewelry store receipt. "It's time," I said simply. "He just made his move." "The papers are ready," she replied. "I'll file them first thing tomorrow." "Do you want me to have him served in San Diego?" "No rush. Let him think he's won first." Another text from Ethan: "I know this must be hard for you. You're not getting any younger, after all. At least you have your little shop to keep you busy." My little shop. The Canvas, the successful gallery I'd built from scratch, the one that generated double the income of his middle management position. The one whose profits I'd carefully kept separate from our joint finances, structured as an LLC in my name. I smiled, thinking of the certified letters that would greet him in San Diego. Let him enjoy his moment of triumph. I spent that evening in our house, my house, since I'd inherited the historic Victorian from my grandfather and kept the deed solely in my name, despite Ethan's repeated suggestions to add him. Another lucky instinct that had paid off. While organizing the paperwork Ms. Chen would need, I found our wedding photos. Ethan looked so different then, before his midlife crisis turned him into a parody of his former self. These days, he wore blazers too slim for his softening frame, tried too hard to connect with the 20-somethings at his office, and used tech slang that sounded ridiculous coming from a man of 45. My phone kept buzzing with texts from him, each one more arrogant than the last. "I've been planning this for months. Samantha understands me in ways you never could. You'll be fine, maybe you'll find someone more your own age. Already told my parents, they agree we grew apart. It's nobody's fault, really." I screenshotted each message, adding them to my evidence folder. Let him dig his hole deeper. My lawyer would love his casual admission of premeditation and his gleeful announcement about emptying our account. The last text caught my attention. "By the way, I used the joint card to book our flights and the hotel. Consider it my parting gift, LOL." Perfect. I called the credit card company. "Ms. Reynolds speaking. I need to report fraudulent charges and cancel a card immediately." "Certainly, ma'am. Can you identify the charges?" 2 first-class tickets to San Diego booked today, and hotel charges at the Pacific Grand. And I'll need to remove my husband as an authorized user. Do you have documentation of the fraud? Text messages from my husband admitting he used our joint card to book travel with his girlfriend after emptying our bank account. I'll be happy to forward them. The representative's professional tone couldn't hide her satisfaction as she canceled the charges. Ethan and Samantha would arrive at the airport tomorrow to find their tickets invalidated, their luxury hotel reservation cancelled. My phone buzzed again. Don't worry about the house. I'll let you stay there until you find something smaller. I actually laughed out loud at that one. Did he really think he had any claim to my grandfather's Victorian? Had his ego forgotten whose name was on the deed? Another buzz, and I know the gallery means a lot to you. We can work out a fair payment for your half. My half of my business that I'd built myself, funded myself, incorporated myself, while he complained about my long hours and called it my little hobby. I poured a glass of Argentine Malbec, the good stuff I'd been saving for a special occasion. This qualified. Tomorrow, Ethan would learn some hard truths about property law and separate assets. But tonight, I'd enjoy the quiet and plan my next chapter. Morning brought a flurry of increasingly angry texts from Ethan. What the heck did you do to our credit card? The airline won't honor our tickets. The hotel canceled our reservation. Answer me. I silenced my phone and headed to the canvas. Wednesday was always our busiest day, and I had a new shipment of sculptures to unpack. Life goes on, even when your husband runs off with an assistant young enough to be his daughter. Around noon, his mother, Mrs. Davis, called. Vivian, dear. Ethan told us everything, about how controlling you've been, how you drove him away. He says you're being vindictive now, causing problems with his travel plans. I put her on speaker while I arranged a window display. Did he mention emptying our joint account and charging tickets for him and his girlfriend on our credit card? Silence. Then, well, he said you left him no choice, that you'd been cold and distant. Barbara, I have his texts. Would you like me to read them to you? The one where he bragged about taking our money, or maybe the one where he mocked my age. Another pause. He did seem a bit cruel. I told him that text message was inappropriate. I appreciate the call, Barbara. I've always liked you, but I think it's best if we end this conversation now. My lawyer has advised minimal contact with Ethan's family during the proceedings. Proceedings already? Goodbye, Barbara. By late afternoon, Ethan's sister, Chloe, was spreading family gossip through mutual friends. Apparently, Ethan and Samantha were stuck at a cheap motel near the airport, their San Diego dreams temporarily derailed. He tried using his personal cards, but those had been maxed out for months, another red flag I'd noticed. Ms. Chen called with an update. The emergency hearing is scheduled for Monday. Given his admission of emptying the joint account and the documented credit card fraud, we're in a strong position to freeze all remaining assets. Has he been served yet? Not yet, but he'll get the papers at his new motel address. Speaking of which, his girlfriend's social media is providing excellent evidence. She's been posting about their adventure all day, including some choice comments about you. I smiled, thinking of my own documentation, a year's worth of suspicious charges, travel receipts, and text messages that proved premeditation. Ethan had been so focused on his grand escape that he'd never considered I might be watching, waiting, preparing. My phone buzzed with another text. You think you're so smart, but I made copies of all the gallery's financial records. Half that business is mine. I forwarded the text to Ms. Chen, adding it to the growing file of Ethan's mistakes. Let him learn the hard way about separate assets and business ownership. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply being prepared. I watched Ethan's face as reality started sinking in. He thought this would be easy, empty our accounts, run off with his assistant, maybe claim half my business in the divorce. He'd never bothered to understand my insistence on keeping things separate, had mocked my careful bookkeeping as obsessive. The court finds sufficient evidence of financial misconduct, the judge announced. All shared assets are frozen pending final dissolution. Mr. Davis is ordered to return any funds removed from joint accounts within 24 hours. But that money's gone. Ethan protested. We spent it on. Then I suggest you find a way to replace it, the judge cut him off. And, Mr. Davis, the court takes a very dim view of using shared credit cards to fund adventures with a paramour. Outside the courthouse, I heard Samantha asking Ethan about their San Diego plans. His response was lost in the sound of my heels clicking confidently across the marble floor, heading back to the business he'd never understood or respected. The next few weeks brought a string of increasingly desperate moves from Ethan. He tried claiming the canvas had been his idea, he remembered investing money in its early days, he even suggested he'd been my business partner all along. Claims quickly disproven by my meticulous records. He's getting desperate, Ms. Chen observed. His girlfriend's social media shows they're staying at her studio apartment now. Apparently, living on an assistant's salary isn't quite the glamorous escape he imagined. Ethan's family started reaching out, their tone markedly different from their initial accusations. We had no idea, his sister Chloe admitted during an unexpected visit to the gallery. He told us you'd been cold, controlling, that he needed to escape. But then we saw his texts, the way he bragged about taking your money, that's not the brother I thought I knew. The canvas thrived, ironically boosted by local gossip about my situation. Women started coming in specifically to show support, often leaving with far more than they'd planned to buy. My ex tried something similar, one customer confided while buying a large sculpture. Thought he'd take everything in the divorce. Men like that never expect us to be smarter than them. My phone still buzzed occasionally with texts from Ethan, his tone swinging between anger and manipulation. You've ruined everything. I never meant to hurt you. You'll regret being so vindictive. Can't we work something out? I forwarded each message to Ms. Chen without responding. Let him dig his hole deeper. Through the grapevine, I heard Samantha was having second thoughts. Apparently, sharing her tiny studio apartment with a middle-aged man who couldn't afford his own place wasn't the romantic adventure she'd imagined. The age gap that had seemed exciting during secret meetings felt different in the harsh light of reality. She posted about toxic relationships and learning from mistakes yesterday, Ms. Chen mentioned during an update call, and removed her relationship status this morning. I almost felt sorry for Ethan. Almost. But then I remembered his LOL after telling me he'd emptied our account, the casual cruelty of his comments about my age, the way he'd assumed I'd be helpless without him. Instead of pity, I felt something else, pride. Pride in my foresight, in my quiet strength, in my ability to protect myself while he underestimated me. The final divorce hearing painted a very different picture from Ethan's imagined triumph. Gone was his cocky attitude, replaced by barely concealed panic. Samantha was noticeably absent, she'd moved on to a coworker her own age, according to office gossip. Ethan had shown up in his old clothes, the designer wardrobe apparently returned to help repay the joint account he'd emptied. His lawyer looked tired, probably from trying to find loopholes in my documented separation of assets. Your Honor, Ethan's lawyer attempted one last time. Despite the separate property documentation, my client contributed to the growth of his wife's business through moral support. Moral support? Ms. Chen interrupted. Like these text messages belittling Ms. Reynolds' business as a little shop? Were these social media posts calling it her hobby? The judge had clearly seen enough. The final settlement reflected my careful planning. I kept my house, my gallery, and my separate assets. Ethan got his personal possessions and his car, which was worth less than he owed on it. You've destroyed me, he hissed as we left the courthouse. I'll have to move back in with my parents. No, Ethan, I replied, my voice steady. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure you couldn't destroy me too. His mother, Barbara, was waiting outside, ready to drive him to her house, his new home at 45. The irony of his situation wasn't lost on anyone. The man who'd mocked my age was now living in his childhood bedroom while I continued running my successful business. You planned this all along, he accused. You knew this would happen. No, I corrected. I just paid attention. And unlike you, I understood the value of keeping good records. Barbara stepped between us. That's enough, Ethan. You've embarrassed yourself enough already. As they walked away, I heard her start in on him. Honestly, what were you thinking? A 20-year-old? Emptying bank accounts? Sending those horrible texts? I watched them disappear into the parking lot, feeling nothing but relief. Ethan had thought he was writing the ending to our story with that cruel text. Instead, he'd merely set my carefully laid plans in motion. My phone buzzed, not with texts from Ethan this time, but with notifications of new orders from the campus's website. Life was moving forward, just not in the direction he'd imagined. 2 years after Ethan's cruel text message, I received an invitation to speak at a women's business conference. The topic wasn't divorce or betrayal, it was about building and protecting a successful enterprise. My story had evolved from cautionary tale to inspiration. During the Q&A session, a young woman asked about keeping business and personal finances separate. My fiancé says I'm being paranoid, that marriage means sharing everything. My ex-husband said the same thing, I replied, smiling, right up until he tried to claim half my business in our divorce. Trust your instincts. Protection isn't paranoia. The gallery chain had grown to 5 locations, each more successful than the last. The Canvas, the little shop Ethan had mocked, now employed 30 people and had been featured in several national art magazines. Through mutual friends, I heard Ethan had finally moved out of his parents' house into a small apartment above a garage. He'd had to take a lower-paying job after his former company downsized, eliminating his position during restructuring. His dating profile still listed him as young at heart, though his profile photo was clearly outdated. Samantha, ironically, had become a regular customer at my original gallery location. She'd earned her business degree and started her own social media consulting company. You inspired me, she told me once, showing how a woman can build something lasting instead of falling for empty promises. I kept Ethan's cruel text message framed in the back office, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof of how far I had come. Below it hung a custom-made sign that read, "Success is the best revenge." At the 5-year anniversary celebration of my original gallery, I stood addressing my employees and loyal customers. The space had been transformed from a single little shop into the flagship store of a thriving business empire. Ethan's mother, Barbara, attended, though I hadn't sent her an invitation. She waited until the crowd thinned to approach me. "I saw Ethan yesterday," she said, smoothing her designer dress, one she'd bought from my store. "He was talking about his glory days, about the life he could have had. He still doesn't understand that he didn't lose everything in the divorce, he threw it away." I thought about that text message, his casual cruelty, his assumption that I would crumble without him. How he'd expected me to beg, to break, to prove him right about my desperation. Instead, I'd built something stronger than before. Each new gallery location was a testament to what women could achieve when they stopped dimming their light for insecure men. The young curator I'd hired last month, coincidentally also named Samantha, came over with a question about the new inventory system I'd implemented. As I explained the process, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the store window. I saw what Ethan had failed to see 5 years ago, not a woman getting older, but one getting wiser, stronger, and more successful. His cruel text message had been meant to be an ending. Instead, it had been a beginning. At the end of the day, success truly is the best revenge. If Vivian's journey from receiving that callous text to opening her 5th gallery location resonated with you, show us some love. Please like this video and hit subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming stories designed to empower you to build your own empire. You can also share this video with a friend who needs a reminder that they are smarter and stronger than they know.